Morning everybody, it's Bear. We're in Deuteronomy 23 this morning. If you are new to the reading of the Bible, or it's been a while since you've read your Bible, we have playlists, Old Testament and New Testament, and I'd encourage you to go check that out. Also, don't subcontract your relationship with your Creator to me. Get your Bible out, read along. Don't take my word for it. Use your eyes to read your Bible, pray to your Creator, and work on your relationship with your Messiah. Okay? Don't. Okay. It's chilly out here, but that's okay because we're all soft, myself included. So maybe a little modicum of hardship would be good for us, including the fact that it's chilly and damp out here. So, Deuteronomy 23. He who is wounded, Deuteronomy 24. We did 23 last week. The words, they're tremendous. When a man takes a wife and shall marry her, then it shall be, if she finds no favor in his eyes, because he has found a matter of uncoveredness, or proof that she is not a maiden, indicating that she had been previously fornicating, finds a matter of uncoveredness in her, and he shall write a certificate of divorce, and put it in her hand, and send her out of his house. And if she left his house, and went and became another man's wife, and the latter husband shall hate her as well, he shall write her a certificate of divorce and put it in her hand and send her out of his house. Or when the latter husband dies who took her to be his wife, then the former husband who sent her away is not allowed to take her back to be his wife after she has been defiled, for that would be an abomination before Yahuwah. And do not bring sin on the land which Yahuwah your Elohim is giving you as an inheritance. Okay, so this is one of these run-on sentences, 4 verses long, with commas but no periods. So one long thought here. When a man takes a wife and he marries her and he finds out, hey, you said you were a virgin and you're not, or you've been out there fornicating, I'm not happy about this, here's a certificate of divorce, he can give her certificate of divorce and send her on her way. And then she leaves his house, goes to another man's house. That guy, the latter husband, if he hates her, writes her a certificate of divorce, puts it in her hand, sends her out of his house, husband number 2. Or he dies. She cannot go back to husband number 1. That would be an abomination before Yahuwah, after she has been defiled. Now, I don't know here if the idea is that husband 1 is an Israelite and husband 2 is not, or I don't know, but it says what it says. So there it is. If you divorce her, you divorce her. There's no divorcing her and taking her back. Now, here's the thing, right? The verse says here, because of a matter of uncoveredness, you know, she was alleged to be a maiden but isn't, or whatever. Let's take that and apply that to today's life. If you divorce her, you divorce her. Remember, with Father Yah, there's no half-assery. You're just, either you do it or you don't. You're in or you're out. You're married or you're divorced. Don't be married, then divorced, then married again. Now, I've actually had conversations with people about this. That's this specific thing of somebody who sought my counsel, that they were married to a woman, got divorced, life happened, they grew to be different people, they both found their Creator, they came back together and remarried. Is this sin? Yeah. Yeah, it is. And not to make light of it, but lots of things are sin. Now, sin is literally transgression of the law. 1 John 3:4. Sin is transgression of the Torah. The Torah says you don't do that. You transgress that, you have sinned. Good news, bad news game. Bad news, we all sin. Had we not all sinned, we wouldn't need a Messiah. We wouldn't need the intercession of Yeshua HaMashiach, of Jesus the Christ. So that sin is covered. Should you continue in that sin? Or do you divorce your wife? Again. That's between you and the Most High. But when you divorce somebody, you divorce them. Shut up, rooster. Verse 5. When a man has taken a new wife, let him not go out into the army, nor let any matter be imposed upon him. He shall be exempt 1 year for the sake of his home, to rejoice with his wife whom he has taken. Hashtag go team. Get in there and make the babies happen. No one takes in pledge the lower or the upper millstone, for he would be taking a life in pledge. You know, you think, I'm just going to move out into the country and it'll be nice and quiet and peaceful. And on cue, 3 roosters at the same time. Not the case. And the guinea. And the dog. Oh, Father Yah, fill me up. You don't take the upper millstone or the lower millstone because you're taking a life in pledge. You're taking away somebody's ability to earn a living and to eat. You don't do that. When a man is found kidnapping any of his brothers of the children of Israel and treats them harshly or sells him, then that kidnapper shall die. Thus you shall purge the evil from your midst. Don't be kidnapping your brothers, yo. Don't treat him harshly, nor do you sell him. Take heed in an outbreak of leprosy to diligently guard and do according to all that the priests and the Levites teach you. As I have commanded them, so you shall guard to do. Take heed in an outbreak of leprosy. Well, this is interesting because we find ourselves in the midst of this COVID-19 bullshizer. The priests and the Levites take heed to do all that they tell you to do. Well, you can go back and read in Leviticus and I believe in Numbers. There's a Torah for leprosy. There is a Torah for infectious disease. What do we do? Literally, it says keep people outside of the camp. Talk about social distancing. Put the sick people over there. Check on them once per week. If they're still sick, check on them again next week. If they're not still sick, bring them back inside the camp. Pretty straightforward, but take heed to do. And then it goes on, verse 9, remember what Yahuwah, your Elohim, did to Miriam on the way when you came out of Mitzrayim. Now this is in Numbers 12. And what he did was Miriam and Aaron, were running their mouths against Moses because he took a Cushite wife. They weren't too happy about that, and they were questioning his authority as vested in him by the Most High. And miraculously, by coincidence, they both came down with leprosy, like that. And so take heed to do, and remember Miriam as you went about the way. Don't be questioning the authority that's vested in these priests and these Levites. When they say, hey, you do this, you do it. Actions have consequences. Like the fact that I really, really, really want to kill at least one of these roosters that I can see right now, if not 2, and the guinea that's right there. And I have both a 45 and a 5.56 on me right now. And the consequences of those actions would be that immediately I would feel wonderful, but long term I'd have a pissed off wife, and I don't particularly feel like dealing with that right now, although the immediate payoff might just overcome the downstream ramifications because I'm over it with these bad words that I want to say at all of these roosters out here. Plus this freaking jerk goat who thinks she's a porch goat He's just going to live on the porch. Knocked a rather expensive rifle that was leaned up on the porch off of the porch. To which my wife said, well, you shouldn't leave your rifle there. To which I said, well, that goat should be dead. We're getting there. We're getting there. Not a terribly peaceful Shabbat morning thus far. Don't know if you can tell. Ten, when you lend your brother a loan, do not go into his house to get his pledge. Stand outside and let the man to whom you lend bring the pledge outside to you. You don't need to be going into his house and looking around when he owes you money. It's his business to repay you. It's not your business to get up into his business. And if the man is poor, do not sleep with his pledge. By all means return his pledge to him at sundown, and he shall sleep in his own garment, and shall bless you. And it shall be righteousness to you before Yahweh your Elohim. If you take a man's garment in pledge, and he's poor, he's only got one garment, don't keep it. If you take a man's whoopee, don't keep his whoopee overnight. He's going to need that to sleep in, bro. That's his poncho liner. It's a highly important piece of kit. Give him his whoopee back. Believe that he will repay you, but give him his whoopee back at sundown, okay? Do not oppress a hired servant who is poor and needy, of your brothers or of strangers who are in your land within your gates. Give him his wages on the same day, and do not let the sun go down on it, for he is poor and lifts up his being to it, so that he does not cry out against you to Yahweh, and it shall be sin in you. Pay a man his daily wages, especially if he's poor. You don't leave him hanging. He needs that money. You don't want him to cry out to Yahweh against you. Fathers are not put to death for their children, and children are not put to death for their fathers. Each is to die for his own sin. Do not twist the right ruling of a stranger or the fatherless, nor take the garment of a widow. But you shall remember that you were a slave in Mitzrayim, and that Yahweh your Elohim ransomed you from there. Therefore I am commanding you to do this word. Those that hear these words of mine and do them will be like he who built his house upon the rock. Matthew 7:24, the words of Yeshua. Therefore I am commanding you to do this word. What word? In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. John, the Word made flesh. It's interesting how it all just ties together. When you reap your harvest in your field and have forgotten the sheaf in the field, do not go back to get it. Let it be for the stranger, for the fatherless, and for the widow, so that Yahweh your Elohim might bless you in all the work of your hands. When you beat your olive trees, do not examine the branch behind you. When you're harvesting, don't give it a good hard look. Let it be for the stranger, for the fatherless, and for the widow. When you gather the grapes of your vineyard, do not glean behind you. Let it be for the stranger, for the fatherless, and the widow. And you shall remember that you were a slave in the land of Mitzrayim. Therefore I am commanding you to do this word. How much better to be a landowner, an agricultural landowner, and to have a Torah on to reap without going back twice, than to be the poor, the widow, the fatherless, the orphan, and to have to be dependent upon somebody else to not glean the corners of their field so that you have something to eat. Now, some people, by the hand of the Father, by circumstance, by a lot of cases, just poor decision making, end up in the position where they're dependent upon the corners of somebody else's field for sustenance. Remember what I said, how the Father doesn't appreciate half-assery? If you can, own the field, till the field, plow the field, reap what you sow, so that you are not dependent upon the corner of somebody else's field. Or if in the establishing of your fields, if it takes you a few years to get your fields up to speed, you have the corner of your brother's field to depend on, but your brother sees you trying to get your own agriculture spun up and you're not dead weight. Don't be dead weight. If you are legitimately orphaned, if you are a widow, if you are the poor, the fatherless, roger that. We have a Torah for you and it blesses us to bless you. But if you're just friggin' lazy, 1 Timothy 5 verse 8, he who does not work has denied the faith and is worse than an infidel. Has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. Get off your lily white ass and get busy. Well, Bear, you're in a very interesting mood today. Yep, sure am. Get out of here, dog. I ain't got time for you. Deuteronomy 25. When there is a dispute between men, they shall come unto judgment, and they shall be judged, and the righteous declared righteous, and the wrongdoer declared wrong. And it shall be, if the wrongdoer is to be struck, that the judge shall cause him to lie down and be struck in his presence with a number of blows according to his wrong. Again, you reap what you sow, but it's slightly different. 40 strikes he gives him, but no more, lest he strike him with many more blows than these, and your brother be degraded before your eyes. You can beat the man, but don't break him. Do not muzzle an ox while it is threshing. Even Paul liked that verse. A workman is worth its hire. When brothers dwell together and one of them has died and has no son, the widow of the dead man shall not become a stranger's outside. Her husband's brother does go into her and shall take her as his wife and perform the duty of a husband's brother to her. Let's say my brother had a wife and he died and they had no kids yet. I am to perform that duty. Luckily, my brother doesn't have a wife. And it shall be, nor do we dwell together. And it shall be that the firstborn son which she bears does rise up for the name of his dead brother, so that his name is not blotted out of Israel, so that the inheritance continues in that lineage. Right? Remember, the distribution of land was based upon names and tribes and bloodlines. But if the man does not desire to take his brother's wife, then let his brother's wife go up to the gate to the elders and say, my husband's brother refuses to raise up a name to his brother in Israel. He does not agree to perform the duty of my husband's brother. The elders of his city shall then call him and speak to him, and he shall stand and say, I have no desire to take her. Shut up, rooster. Then his brother's wife shall come to him in the presence of the elders, and remove his sandal from his foot, and shall spit in his face, and answer and say, thus it is done to the man who does not build up his brother's house. And in Israel his name shall be called the house of him who has his sandal removed. Now, that sounds like a really stupid thing to call somebody, the house of him who has his sandal removed. The reason for that, per my research, and by the way, it makes it pretty clear here that the brother's duty is to do this. And if he won't do this, then the wife is to go to the elders and say, yo, my brother-in-law will not do his duty. And then the elders contact him. They say, hey, come here. Are you going to do this? And he either says, yep, yeah, my bad, I'll do it. Or, no, I'm not doing this. They say, okay. If he won't do it, she spits in his face. He removes his sandal, and she says, this is the one who will not build up his brother's house. And then he's known throughout all of Israel as the one who has had his sandal removed. The reason for having your sandal removed and that being such an egregious offense is that it was an indication of abject poverty to walk around barefoot. You were lower than whale dung if you were walking around barefoot. And so to have your sandal removed was to be laid low. It gave the brother an out. He didn't have to do it. He wasn't at the point of a gun that you have to do this thing. But his honor and his reputation suffered greatly throughout all of Israel as being known of the house of him who has had his sandal removed. He would not do what was commanded of him, what was instructed of him. He did not build up his brother's name, and therefore that family lost inheritance, that family lost land. Actions have consequences. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do, right? Like kill a guinea hen. Verse 11. When men fight with one another, and a man and his brother and the wife, when men fight with one another, a man and his brother, and the wife of one shall draw near to rescue her husband from the hand of the one striking him, and shall put out her hand and take a hold of him by the genitals. Then you shall cut off her hand. Your eye does not pardon. Ladies, don't be grabbing genitals, at least when there's a fight going on. If you want to get some hashtag go team going on, hey, that's between you and your significant other. But not when there's fighting involved. I mean, literally it goes back to 23, right? Because think about this. He who is wounded by the crushing of testicles or by whose penis is cut off shall not enter into the community of Yahweh. Why is this? It's the same reason that the Father rails against us when we enter into our pagan idolatry of fertility worship, is because he is sovereign over all things, including our fertility. I mean, think about the story of Avram and Sarai, Abraham and Sarah. Sarah literally laughed in the face of God. It was like, you're going to build a nation out of this dry womb? You know how old I am? And he's like, woman, you think I can't? And she's like, oh crap, my bad. And he does. The Father is sovereign over all things, especially our fertility. And you know, what a coinky dink. You know how many people I've talked to who have been unable to get pregnant or have had complicated pregnancies or low fertility or low whatever? Would not happen. They start keeping Torah, they start eating clean, they start observing the Sabbath, they start obeying the commands to keep the feasts, and all of a sudden, miraculously, and it is miraculous, but it's like, what a coincidence. Boom, they're pregnant. Who'd have thought? It's almost as if a loving and all-powerful creator said, let it be, and it was. It's almost as if there's a book right here on how we should live a life in such a way that's pleasing to the Most High to then experience his provision and blessing. It's almost as if it literally says in Deuteronomy 28, if you diligently obey the voice of Yahweh your Elohim, then you will be blessed. It's almost as if that's the case. I can't say verbatim that that's actually what's happening, but it's almost exactly as if that is what's happening. So, don't be crushing testicles. Those are important. We need those to perpetuate Israel. Verse 13, you shall not have in your bag differing weights, a heavy and a light. You shall not have in your house differing measures, a large and a small. Proverbs verse 6, this is an abomination. You shall have a perfect and right weight and a perfect and right measure, so that they prolong your days on the soil which Yahweh your Elohim is giving you. For all those who do these and all who do unrighteously are an abomination to Yahweh your Elohim. Remember what Amalek did to you on the way as you were coming out of Mitzrayim. Exodus 17, 8 through 16. Let's just go there. Why the heck not? Exodus. Genesis, Exodus 17. 8 through 16. And Amalek came and fought with Israel in Rephidim. And Moshe said to Yehoshua, to Joshua, choose for us men to go out and fight with Amalek. Tomorrow I am stationing myself on top of the hill with the rod of Elohim in my hand. And Joshua did as Moshe said to him, to fight with Amalek. And Moshe and Aaron and Hur went to the top of the hill. And it came to be when Moshe held up his hands, Israel prevailed. And when he let down his hand, Amalek prevailed. But Moshe's hands were heavy, so they took a stone and put it under him, and he sat on it. And Aaron and Hur supported his hands, one on one side and one on the other side. And his hands were steady until the going down of the sun. And Yehoshua defeated Amalek and his people with the edge of the sword. Just like being Christians, just like being like a really nice guy and stuff. It's like, yeah, sometimes you have to grab a sword and get on the battlefield and go kill MFers. Yeah, that's in this Bible too. And still be squarely, perfectly in line with what you were created to be by Father God. Yes, those things are not oil and water. Those things are not counterintuitive to one another. It can be both, and oftentimes it is both. You can be a total badass on the battlefield and love the Lord your God with everything you've got and love your neighbor as yourself. And in fact, the vast majority of men that we see counted righteous in this book, and yes, there is more than one that is righteous. There's many in this book that are counted righteous. Although Yeshua, Jesus, embodied righteousness, the vast majority of the men we see in this book that are righteous are men. They're men, stonemasons, sheep herds, warriors, giant slayers, and righteous. And so the whole self-help motivational speaker, polo wearing beta male, and for the next slide up on the big screen as the worship team brings it down a little bit, let's just get some light acoustic guitar. I want to hit those people with a Caterpillar D6 high track. And Yehoshua defeated Amalek and his people with the edge of the sword. And Yahweh said to Moshe, write this for remembrance in the book and recite it in the hearing of Joshua, Yehoshua, that I shall completely blot out the remembrance of Amalek from under the heavens. And Moshe built a slaughter place and called its name Yahweh Nisi. For he said, because a hand is on the throne of Yah, Yahweh is to fight against Amalek from generation to generation. And here in Deuteronomy 25, remember what Amalek did to you on the way as you were coming out of Mitzrayim, how he met you on the way and attacked your back, all the feeble ones in the rear when you were tired and weary, and he did not fear Elohim. Therefore it shall be, when Yahweh your Elohim has given you rest from your enemies all around, in the land which Yahweh your Elohim is giving you to possess as an inheritance, that you blot out the remembrance of Amalek from under the heavens. Do not forget. Amalek, I believe, was the grandson of Esau. Another story for another time. Deuteronomy 2:5, 2:4, and 2:5, bunch of one-liners. How should we live a life that's pleasing to the Father? That. And you know what he's put on me this morning is go anyway. I'll be honest with you, I did not want to do this morning. I'm not in the mood to do this morning. And you know what he said? I don't care, kid. Go anyway. And so here we are. And so if this was perhaps a little bit more brash than you're used to experiencing, if this offended you, my bad. If you diligently obey the voice of Yahweh, your Elohim, then you will be blessed. And he oftentimes tells me to do things that I don't want to do. But he's really good at reminding me that it has nothing to do with whether or not I want to do it. It's about him. And that when I do the things that I want to do, historically speaking in life, it's a train wreck. And I'm too old and too tired and too broke to keep wrecking the train. And so to the best of my broken ability, I will continue to heed the voice of Yahweh my Elohim. I hope that there was a nugget or two in here for y'all. Thanks for bearing with me. Shalom.